Greetings and welcome, everyone, to today's episode. Buckle up, because this story takes us into the heart of a seemingly perfect suburban life, unraveling secrets that will leave you questioning just how much you really know about the people closest to you. Claire's seemingly perfect life shatters when she discovers her husband Rob's affair with the manipulative Melissa, a woman who thrives on control and deception. As Claire unravels layers of betrayal, she learns Melissa's motives are far darker, with a twisted web of lies that not only target her marriage but also pull others into chaos. With shocking revelations about secret finances and schemes involving Melissa's ex-husband, Claire must navigate heartbreak, deceit, and public humiliation while protecting her family. The story brims with infuriating twists, exposing the devastating impact of infidelity and the length some will go to for revenge. Let's rewind to the year 2015, set in a cozy little town nestled somewhere in Pennsylvania, the kind of place where everyone waves hello, neighborhood potlucks are the norm, and the loudest drama usually comes from PTA meetings. Our protagonist, Claire Martin, is a 36-year-old teacher at the local high school. She's warm, intelligent, and always the first to lend a helping hand. Claire is married to Rob, her high school sweetheart, and now a successful real estate agent. Together, they live in a charming two-story house on Willow Lane with their two kids, Abby, a bright and curious 10-year-old, and Lucas, a mischievous 6-year-old with an affinity for Legos and superhero capes. On the outside, they are the quintessential happy family. But as we all know, perfection is often a well-crafted illusion. Claire is the kind of person you instantly warm up to, a natural caretaker who seems to have boundless energy. Her friends at the school admire her ability to juggle everything with grace, from her students' endless questions to her kids' extracurricular chaos. Rob, on the other hand, is charismatic and ambitious. He's the guy everyone likes, whether it's at a barbecue or a business meeting. Together, Claire and Rob seem like the ideal couple, two pieces of a puzzle that fit so perfectly you'd never guess there might be cracks underneath. But cracks have a funny way of showing themselves when you least expect them. The story kicks off one crisp autumn evening. Claire is in the kitchen, her apron dusted with flour, preparing homemade apple pie for family movie night. Lucas is busy in the living room, building a fortress out of couch cushions, while Abby is glued to her iPad, furiously Googling facts for her upcoming science project. Rob, predictably, is running late. It's become somewhat of a pattern lately, his late nights at work that leave Claire alone to handle the home front. When Rob finally walks through the door, his usual charm feels a bit strained. His hug is brief, his smile forced. Claire notices, but brushes it off. After all, everyone has off days, right? Little does she know, this is just the first domino. Fast forward a few days. Claire is grading essays late one evening when her best friend Rachel calls. Rachel is one of those friends who's always full of unsolicited but usually spot-on advice. Tonight, though, she's unusually quiet. After a bit of prodding, Rachel blurts out, "Claire, have you noticed anything different about Rob lately?" The question catches Claire off guard. Sure, Rob has been a little distracted, but different. Not really. Rachel hesitates before adding, "I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I saw him at the Copper Lantern last week. He was with someone, a woman, and it didn't look like a business meeting." For a moment, Claire's heart stops, but just as quickly, she shakes off the pang of doubt. Rob is a real estate agent, she reasons, and networking is part of his job. "It's probably nothing," she assures Rachel, though her voice betrays a sliver of uncertainty. The next morning, Claire decides to ignore the nagging thoughts that kept her up all night. She focuses on her usual routine, getting the kids to school, managing her classes, and tackling a mountain of laundry. But Rob's behavior continues to gnaw at her. One Friday evening, Claire and Rob are invited to a dinner party hosted by one of Rob's colleagues. It's a formal affair, with wine flowing freely and small talk swirling in the air. Claire can't help but notice how Rob's attention keeps drifting across the room to a striking woman with auburn hair and a contagious laugh. Claire asks, "Who's that?" Rob, caught off guard, stammers, "Oh, that's Melissa. She's new at the office." New at the office. Simple enough, but the way Rob says it, too casually, almost rehearsed, makes Claire's chest tighten. Later that evening, as they're leaving, Claire notices Rob's phone buzz with a message. It's a name she doesn't recognize, Melissa R. The message is innocuous enough, "See you Monday." But paired with Rob's earlier distraction, it's enough to make Claire wonder. The next few weeks are a blur of subtle shifts. Rob becomes more secretive, his phone seemingly glued to his hand. He starts working late more often, and when Claire asks about it, he brushes her off with excuses about demanding clients. It's a slow burn, but the seed of doubt planted by Rachel's comment has started to take root. One cold November morning, while Rob is out on a client showing, Claire's curiosity gets the better of her. She decides to take a peek at Rob's work bag, something she's never done before. Inside, she finds the usual: a notebook, business cards, and a folder. But tucked between the pages of his notebook is something that doesn't belong: a receipt for dinner at the Copper Lantern. It's dated 2 weeks ago, on a night Rob claimed he was working late. For a moment, Claire feels like the ground beneath her is giving way. Her mind races as she replays the little moments she overlooked: Rob's distant demeanor, the mysterious Melissa, and now this receipt. She's not one to jump to conclusions, but the pieces are starting to add up. Claire doesn't confront Rob right away. Instead, she does something she's never done before. She starts to pay closer attention. Over the next few days, she notices patterns she hadn't before: how Rob's excuses sound rehearsed, how he avoids eye contact when he's on his phone, and how he's suddenly taking more care with his appearance. And then one night, it happens: Claire overhears a hushed phone call. She doesn't catch much, but what she does hear sends her reeling. "I can't keep doing this." She's starting to suspect. Claire's world begins to tilt. The question isn't if something is going on anymore, it's what and why. As Claire grapples with the revelation from the phone call, her world becomes a whirlwind of questions, doubts, and heartache. Her instincts tell her to confront Rob, but fear holds her back. Fear of what she might hear. Fear of the truth. She starts doing what she thought she'd never do: playing detective in her own marriage. Late at night, when Rob is fast asleep, she scrolls through their shared credit card statements, looking for anomalies. She notices a series of expenses that don't add up: meals at fancy restaurants she's never been to, charges from a boutique gift shop she doesn't frequent, and, most damningly, a hotel booking from a month ago. All of this, combined with Rob's increasingly suspicious behavior, feels like confirmation of her worst fears. One evening, over dinner, Claire decides to test the waters. She keeps her tone light, trying not to sound accusatory. "Hey, Rob," she begins. "How's work been lately? You've been putting in so many hours it must be exhausting." Rob looks up from his plate, a little too quickly. "Yeah, it's been crazy." "You know how demanding clients can be," he says, flashing his signature smile. But Claire notices how his fingers tap nervously on the table, betraying his calm demeanor. She pushes a little further. "I found an old receipt for the Copper Lantern in your bag. I didn't know you were treating clients there. Isn't that a bit fancy for work meetings?" Rob freezes for a split second, just long enough for Claire to catch it. Then he laughs, shaking his head. "Oh, that was for a networking event. A bunch of us from the office went. Nothing fancy, just business." Claire forces a smile, but inside, her suspicions are solidifying into a grim certainty. A few days later, Claire confides in Rachel. Over coffee in Claire's kitchen, Rachel listens intently as Claire spills everything: Rob's late nights, the strange phone call, and the mysterious expenses. Rachel's face hardens as Claire talks. "This isn't right, Claire. You deserve answers." Rachel, ever the pragmatist, suggests they hire a private investigator. At first, Claire is hesitant. It feels like crossing a line. But Rachel points out, "Claire, he's already crossed the line. You're just trying to figure out where it is." After some convincing, Claire agrees. The next day, she meets with a PI named Paul, a grizzled man in his 50s who speaks with the calm authority of someone who's seen it all. He promises discretion and assures Claire that they'll have answers soon. 2 weeks later, Paul calls Claire with an update. His tone is serious. "Claire, I've got some photos you need to see." Her stomach churns as she meets Paul at his office. He slides a folder across the table, and Claire hesitates before opening it. Inside are a series of photos. Rob at a cafe, laughing with Melissa. Rob and Melissa walking hand in hand into a hotel. The images blur as tears fill Claire's eyes. It's undeniable now. Rob is having an affair. Paul places a hand on hers, his voice gentle. "I know this is hard, but now you know the truth." Back at home, Claire tries to keep up appearances for the kids. Abby and Lucas are her anchors, the only constants in a life that suddenly feels unrecognizable, but her demeanor doesn't escape Rob's notice. One evening, as they sit in the living room, Rob asks, "You've been quiet lately, is everything okay?" Claire looks at him, struggling to contain the storm inside her. "I'm fine, just tired." Rob doesn't press further, but Claire can see the unease in his eyes. She wonders if he senses that she knows. As weeks pass, Claire becomes more resolute. She begins to think not just about the betrayal, but about her future. Could she forgive Rob? Could their marriage survive this? And if not, what would life look like for her and the kids? Her determination grows when Paul uncovers more evidence. It turns out Melissa isn't just Rob's mistress. She's also recently divorced. The pieces click into place. Rob's erratic behavior, the long hours, the secrecy. He's not just having an affair, he's building a life with someone else. Claire decides it's time to confront him. One Saturday night, after the kids are in bed, Claire calls Rob into the living room. Her hands tremble as she holds the folder of evidence, but her voice is steady. "We need to talk." Rob looks wary as he sits down. "What's going on?" Claire takes a deep breath and lays the folder on the coffee table. "You tell me, Rob." He hesitates before opening it, and when he sees the photos, his face pales. For a moment, he looks like he might deny it, but then his shoulders sag, and he runs a hand through his hair. "Claire, I'm sorry." "Sorry?" Claire's voice rises. "That's all you have to say. You've been lying to me for months, maybe longer. You've been lying to your kids." Rob looks at her, his eyes filled with regret, or at least something that looks like it. "It just happened. I didn't mean for it to. But things between us, they haven't been the same for a long time." Claire's heart shatters at his words. "So instead of talking to me, instead of trying to fix things, you decided to throw away everything we built?" Rob doesn't have an answer, and the silence is deafening. That night, Claire sleeps in the guest room. She's not ready to decide what comes next, but she knows one thing for certain. The life she thought she had is gone. Over the next few days, she starts making plans. She consults a lawyer, begins researching her options, and even reaches out to a therapist. For the first time in weeks, she feels a glimmer of control. Rob, for his part, tries to make amends. He promises to end things with Melissa, swears he'll do whatever it takes to fix their marriage, but Claire isn't sure she can believe him, or if she even wants to. If you've made it this far, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more captivating stories like this one. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you do if you were in Claire's shoes? Here's the continuation of the story script. Claire wakes up the morning after her confrontation with Rob feeling a mix of exhaustion and resolve. She knows this isn't over. Not by a long shot. She spends the day in a daze, going through the motions for the kids. But inside, she's a storm. Every time Rob tries to talk to her, she brushes him off. She's not ready to hear more apologies, not ready to hear promises she can't trust. But the silence in the house feels like a ticking time bomb, and when it finally goes off, the blast will change everything. It's a quiet Tuesday evening when the first explosion happens. Claire is helping Lucas with his math homework. While Abby scrolls through her phone, Rob has been staying late at work more often, claiming he's trying to tie up loose ends. Claire doesn't buy it, but she lets it slide, until tonight. Abby looks up from her phone, her face pale. "Mom, she says hesitantly. Did you know Dad has a second Instagram account? Claire's stomach drops. What are you talking about? Abby hands her the phone. There it is, an account under a pseudonym, but with Rob's face in the profile picture. The bio is vague, but the posts are damning. Photos of Rob and Melissa, arms around each other, captioned with inside jokes and emojis. The most recent post is from last week, Rob and Melissa at what appears to be a cabin, the caption reading, "A perfect weekend getaway." Claire feels like the air has been sucked out of the room. She excuses herself, phone in hand, and locks herself in the bathroom. Her hands shake as she scrolls through the account, each photo another knife to her heart. She screenshots everything, her mind racing with what to do next. When Rob comes home that night, Claire is waiting for him in the living room, the screenshots printed and spread out on the coffee table like evidence in a courtroom. Rob walks in, sees the papers, and freezes. "What is this?" Claire asks, her voice cold. Rob stammers. "Claire, I can explain." "Don't," she snaps, cutting him off. "Don't you dare insult me with another lie. I gave you a chance to come clean, Rob. And this is how you repay me, by flaunting your affair all over the internet like it's some kind of joke?" Rob sits down heavily, his head in his hands. "I didn't mean for you to find out like this." Claire lets out a bitter laugh. "Oh, so I was supposed to stay in the dark while you lived your double life. Tell me, Rob, was she worth it? Was Melissa worth throwing away our family?" Rob looks up, his eyes filled with tears. "It's not like that, Claire. I love you. I never stopped loving you. I made a mistake." Claire's voice shakes with anger. "A mistake. A mistake is forgetting our anniversary or leaving the milk out. What you did wasn't a mistake, Rob. It was a choice over and over again. You chose her, so don't you dare sit there and pretend this is something we can just fix." The argument rages late into the night, their voices rising until they're both exhausted. By the end, Claire has made up her mind. This marriage is over. The next day, Claire contacts her lawyer to start the process of filing for divorce. She also arranges for temporary custody of the kids, who are starting to pick up on the tension in the house. Abby is old enough to understand what's happening, and while she doesn't say much, the hurt in her eyes speaks volumes. Lucas, on the other hand, is confused and scared. Claire does her best to reassure them, but it's clear that the cracks in their family are taking a toll. Rob, meanwhile, is desperate to salvage what's left. He tries everything: flowers, heartfelt letters, promises to end things with Melissa. But Claire is done listening. "It's too late," she tells him one night. "You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." As Claire navigates the legal and emotional fallout of the separation, she finds an unexpected source of support: Melissa's ex-husband, Brian. They meet by chance at the kids' school, where Brian is dropping off his daughter. Recognizing Claire from the photos on Melissa's social media, he approaches her cautiously. "I think we need to talk," he says, his tone heavy with sympathy. Over coffee, Brian shares his side of the story. Melissa had been unfaithful during their marriage too, leaving a trail of broken promises and shattered trust. "She has a way of pulling people in," Brian says. "But it never lasts. She's always looking for the next thrill." Hearing this doesn't make Claire feel better, but it gives her clarity. Rob's affair wasn't about her or their marriage. It was about him and his own weaknesses. While it doesn't excuse his actions, it helps Claire begin to let go of the guilt she's been carrying. Just when Claire thinks things can't get any worse, she discovers one final betrayal. In the course of the divorce proceedings, her lawyer uncovers financial records that reveal Rob had been siphoning money from their joint account to fund his escapades with Melissa. Expensive dinners, lavish gifts, even the cabin getaway, all of it paid for with money that should have been for their family. When Claire confronts Rob about this, his reaction is a mix of shame and defensiveness. "I was going to pay it back," he insists. But Claire doesn't care. The financial betrayal is the last straw. Any lingering hope she had of an amicable divorce is gone. In the weeks that follow, Claire throws herself into rebuilding her life. She focuses on her kids, her job, and her own well-being. She starts therapy to work through the trauma of the betrayal and joins a support group for women going through divorce. Slowly but surely, she begins to feel like herself again. Rob, meanwhile, spirals. His attempts to reconcile with Claire are met with cold indifference, and his relationship with Melissa starts to crumble under the weight of their shared guilt. By the time their divorce is finalized, Rob is a shadow of the man he once was. On the day the divorce papers are signed, Claire takes her kids out for ice cream to celebrate their new beginning. As they sit in the sunshine, laughing over melted cones and sticky fingers, Claire feels a sense of peace she hasn't felt in years. She doesn't know what the future holds, but for the first time, she's okay with that. If you're loving this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more engaging recaps like this one. And share your thoughts. What do you think of Claire's decision to move on? Let's talk about it in the comments below. The divorce may have been finalized, but the fallout from Rob's affair with Melissa is far from over. Claire tries to settle into her new normal, focusing on rebuilding her life and shielding the kids from the worst of the drama. But as anyone who's been through a messy breakup knows, the past has a way of clawing its way back when you least expect it. For a brief moment, it seems like things are stabilizing. Abby and Lucas are adjusting to the new routine, and Claire finds solace in her support group, where she meets women who've been through similar heartbreak. They offer advice, understanding, and, most importantly, hope. Even Rob seems to be trying. He's been punctual with child support payments and has made an effort to be more present during his weekends with the kids. It's not much, but it's something. For the first time in months, Claire starts to believe that they might be able to co-parent peacefully. But as the saying goes, it's always darkest before the dawn. One Friday evening, Claire is cooking dinner when Abby walks into the kitchen, her phone in hand and a troubled expression on her face. "Mom, you need to see this," she says, handing Claire the phone. On the screen is a social media post from Melissa, an engagement announcement. The caption reads, "He chose me. Can't wait to spend forever with the love of my life." Claire stares at the screen, her heart sinking. It's not the engagement itself that rattles her, it's the blatant jab at her. The comments under the post are even worse, filled with thinly veiled digs at Claire's expense. Abby looks at her mom, worry etched across her face. "Are you okay?" Claire forces a smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Don't worry about me." But she's not fine. Far from it. The next time Rob comes to pick up the kids, Claire confronts him. "I saw Melissa's post," she says, keeping her tone as neutral as possible. "Are you seriously getting engaged already?" Rob hesitates, guilt flashing across his face. "I was going to tell you," he says. "I just didn't want to upset you." "Upset me?" Claire snaps. "Rob, you've been engaged for, 2 days, and Melissa's already using it as an opportunity to humiliate me online. Do you even care about how this affects our kids?" Rob sighs, running a hand through his hair. "I can talk to her, okay? I'll tell her to tone it down." "Tone it down?" Claire's voice rises. "How about you start by acting like a decent human being and stop enabling her behavior?" Rob opens his mouth to respond but thinks better of it. He leaves without another word, but Claire knows the conversation isn't over. As if the situation wasn't complicated enough, Abby decides to take matters into her own hands. A few days later, Claire discovers that her daughter has written a scathing comment under Melissa's engagement post, calling her out for breaking up their family. The comment quickly gains traction, with friends and acquaintances weighing in. Claire's first instinct is to be upset, but when she sees the hurt and anger in Abby's eyes, her heart softens. "I just couldn't let her get away with it, Mom," Abby says, tears streaming down her face. "She's ruining everything." Claire hugs her daughter tightly. "I know, sweetheart, but we can't stoop to her level. She's not worth it." The next morning, Claire wakes up to a flood of messages. Melissa has retaliated, posting a lengthy rant accusing Claire of being bitter, controlling, and unable to move on. The post includes veiled references to private details about Claire and Rob's marriage, details Melissa couldn't possibly know unless Rob had told her. Claire feels a wave of fury, unlike anything she's ever experienced. She wants to call Rob, to scream at him for betraying her yet again, but instead, she takes a deep breath and does something she never thought she'd do. She calls her lawyer. Claire's lawyer advises her to file a cease and desist letter against Melissa, warning her to stop posting defamatory statements online. The letter is delivered within days, and for a while, Melissa seems to back off, but the damage has already been done. The public nature of the feud has turned Claire's personal life into a spectacle, and the stress is starting to take a toll. Rob, caught in the middle, tries to play peacemaker. "Can't we just move on?" he pleads during one of their heated discussions. "This is getting out of hand." "No, Rob," Claire snaps. "What's out of hand is your fiancé dragging me through the mud for no reason. You want peace, then maybe you should start holding her accountable." Just when Claire feels like she's reached her breaking point, she receives an unexpected phone call from Brian, Melissa's ex-husband. "I heard what's been going on," he says, his voice filled with sympathy, "and I think it's time someone put Melissa in her place." Brian reveals that he has evidence of Melissa's manipulative behavior, including messages that paint a very different picture of her relationship with Rob. "She's been doing this for years," Brian says. "I'm tired of watching her ruin people's lives." With Brian's help, Claire gathers enough evidence to file a formal complaint against Melissa for harassment. It's a bold move, but Claire knows it's the only way to protect herself and her kids. The situation comes to a head during a tense court hearing. Melissa, ever the drama queen, tries to paint herself as the victim, but Claire's lawyer dismantles her arguments with precision. The evidence, combined with testimony from Brian and others, leaves little doubt about Melissa's true nature. The judge orders Melissa to cease all contact with Claire and refrain from posting about her online. It's a small victory, but for Claire, it feels like a weight has been lifted. The hearing is a wake-up call for Rob as well. Seeing Melissa's behavior laid bare forces him to confront the truth about their relationship. In a tearful conversation with Claire, he admits, "I don't know how I let it get this far. I was so caught up in the fantasy that I didn't see the damage I was doing." Claire listens, but her response is measured. "Rob, I hope you figure things out, but I can't fix this for you. You need to take responsibility for your choices and for your life." With the legal drama behind her, Claire focuses on moving forward. She starts taking yoga classes, reconnects with old friends, and even goes on a few dates. It's not easy, but for the first time in a long time, she feels hopeful about the future. Abby and Lucas, too, are starting to heal. Abby channels her emotions into her art, while Lucas becomes obsessed with soccer, spending hours practicing in the backyard. Watching them thrive gives Claire the strength to keep going. As for Rob, he eventually ends things with Melissa. The breakup is messy and public, but Claire doesn't get involved. She's done living in the shadow of his mistakes. In the end, Claire realizes that the hardest part of her journey wasn't letting go of Rob. It was learning to trust herself again. The betrayal shattered her world, but it also gave her the chance to rebuild it on her own terms. If you've been following Claire's story, let us know your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done in her shoes? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this one. We've got plenty more twists and turns coming your way. Claire wakes up to a crisp autumn morning, the air carrying a sense of change. It's been a few weeks since the court hearing against Melissa, and while life has begun to settle, there's an undercurrent of anticipation in the air. Things between Claire and Rob remain civil, but distant. The kids seem happier, more relaxed, but Claire knows the storm isn't entirely over. The story has one more chapter to tell. One afternoon, Claire receives an invitation in the mail. It's addressed to her, handwritten in delicate cursive, with a return address she doesn't recognize. She opens it to find an elegant card. "You are cordially invited to Melissa's engagement celebration." The gall of it takes her breath away. "Is this some kind of sick joke?" Claire mutters to herself, tossing the card onto the kitchen counter. She debates throwing it away, but decides to keep it, proof, if nothing else, of Melissa's relentless nerve. Later that evening, Abby finds the card and reads it, her face hardening. "She's insane," Abby says. "Mom, You're not seriously thinking of going, are you? Claire shakes her head. Absolutely not. I have no interest in whatever circus she's putting on. But the invitation lingers in the back of her mind, like a challenge waiting to be answered. That weekend, Claire takes the kids to the park, hoping for a peaceful afternoon. While Lucas plays soccer and Abby sketches under a tree, Claire finds herself wandering near the edge of the playground. That's when she sees him, Rob, sitting on a bench with his head in his hands. He looks up as she approaches, his expression a mix of surprise and relief. Claire, hey. Claire crosses her arms, unsure what to say. Rob, what are you doing here? I needed some air, he admits. Things with Melissa, they've been complicated. The bitterness in Claire's voice surprises even her. Complicated? That's an interesting way to describe it. Rob sighs, running a hand through his hair. Look, I know I've made mistakes, a lot of them, but Melissa, she's not who I thought she was. Claire raises an eyebrow. And you're just figuring that out now? He nods, looking genuinely regretful. I've been blind, Claire. I let her manipulate me, and in the process, I destroyed everything that mattered. I don't know if I can ever make it right, but I needed to tell you. I'm sorry for everything. Claire stares at him, torn between the urge to lash out and the desire to let go. Rob, she says finally, I appreciate the apology, but it doesn't change what happened. You need to figure out who you are and what you want, and you need to do it without dragging me or the kids into it. Rob nods, a hint of determination in his eyes. You're right, I owe it to all of you to be better. The day of Melissa's engagement celebration arrives, and Claire spends it trying to distract herself. But just as she's settling in for the evening, her phone buzzes with a call from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answers. Claire, it's Brian. Melissa's ex-husband sounds urgent, almost frantic. I thought you should know. Melissa's been stirring up trouble again. She's telling people at her party that you're obsessed with her and that you tried to sabotage her engagement. Claire's blood boils. Why am I not surprised? What do you want me to do about it? Brian hesitates. I don't know, I just thought you deserved to know what she's saying. She's good at playing the victim, Claire. Be careful. The call ends, leaving Claire seething. For a moment, she considers letting it go, but something inside her snaps. She's had enough of Melissa's games. Claire changes into something sharp but understated, a tailored blazer, dark jeans and ankle boots. She doesn't bother with makeup. Her presence will speak louder than any amount of lipstick. She drives to the address on the invitation, her heart pounding, but her resolve unshaken. The celebration is being held at an upscale restaurant, its private event space filled with laughter, and the clinking of glasses. Claire walks in, her head held high, and spots Melissa holding court in the center of the room. She's wearing a shimmering gown, her smile as fake as her nails. The room quiets as Claire strides in. Conversations pause, heads turn, and Melissa's smile falters. Claire, Melissa says, feigning surprise. What are you doing here? Claire stops a few feet away, her voice calm but cutting. I came to return the favor, Melissa. Since you've been so generous with your commentary on my life, I thought I'd return the gesture. A murmur ripples through the crowd as Melissa's mask slips. I don't know what you're talking about, she says, but her voice wavers. Oh, I think you do, Claire says, pulling out her phone. She plays a recording, one of the voicemails Melissa left on Brian's phone, mocking Claire and boasting about her ability to manipulate Rob. The room falls silent. Melissa's face turns red, her composure crumbling. You have no right. I have every right, Claire interrupts. You've spent months trying to tear me down, spreading lies and dragging my name through the mud. But this ends now. Rob appears at the edge of the crowd, his expression one of shock and shame. Melissa, is this true? He asks, his voice trembling. Melissa stammers, searching for an excuse, but the damage is done. The guests begin to murmur, their once friendly gazes turning cold. Rob steps forward, his voice rising. You told me Claire was the problem, that she was bitter and jealous, but all this time, it was you. Melissa's attempts to defend herself fall flat. The crowd begins to disperse, whispers filling the air as guests leave the party one by one. Melissa stands alone, her carefully constructed facade in ruins. As Claire drives home, a strange sense of peace washes over her. For the first time in months, she feels like she's regained control of her story. Melissa's influence is finally broken, and Rob has seen the truth for himself. Back at home, Claire finds Abby and Lucas waiting for her in the living room. They look up as she walks in, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. "Everything okay, Mom?" Abby asks. Claire smiles, pulling them into a hug. "Everything's better than okay." In the weeks that follow, Claire focuses on moving forward. She throws herself into her work, starts volunteering at a local shelter, and even tries her hand at writing, a memoir of sorts, chronicling her journey through betrayal and resilience. Rob, humbled by the events at the party, begins to repair his relationship with the kids. It's slow and tentative, but genuine. As for Melissa, she fades into the background, her reputation irreparably damaged. Claire learns to embrace the chaos of her new life, finding joy in the little moments. Lucas scoring a goal at his soccer game, Abby acing her art competition, and quiet evenings spent laughing with friends. For the first time in a long time, she feels hopeful about the future. If you've been captivated by Claire's journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of resilience and triumph. And as always, share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your take on this incredible tale. The fallout from Melissa's disastrous engagement party sends shockwaves through the lives of everyone involved. For Claire, the moment marks a turning point, a release from the grip of Melissa's toxic influence and the start of her journey toward true independence. But as the dust settles, new challenges arise, forcing Claire and her family to confront the lingering scars left by betrayal and deceit. In the days following the engagement party, Claire avoids the gossip that spreads through their community like wildfire. Melissa's humiliation has become the talk of the town, and while part of Claire revels in the poetic justice, she knows that feeding into the drama would only drag her back into the chaos. Instead, she focuses on her kids, who are still processing everything in their own ways. Abby has taken to sketching furiously in her notebook, creating dark, swirling images that Claire can't quite decipher. Lucas, meanwhile, seems quieter than usual, sticking close to Claire like a shadow. One evening, as they sit around the dinner table, Abby breaks the silence. "Mom," she says hesitantly, "do you think things will ever feel normal again?" Claire pauses, her heart aching at the vulnerability in her daughter's voice. "I don't know, sweetheart," she admits, "but I do know that we're going to be okay. We have each other, and that's what matters most." Abby nods, her lips curving into a small, hopeful smile. It's a start. Meanwhile, Rob is grappling with the consequences of his choices. With Melissa out of his life, he's left to face the wreckage of his marriage and his fractured relationship with his children. He begins attending therapy, hoping to understand the patterns that led him down such a destructive path. One afternoon, he shows up at Claire's house unannounced, holding a box filled with old photo albums and mementos from their marriage. "I thought the kids might like to see these," he says, his voice tinged with regret. Claire hesitates before inviting him in. They sit at the kitchen table, flipping through the pages of their shared history. As they come across a photo of their honeymoon, a candid shot of them laughing on a beach, Rob sighs. "I was so happy then," he says quietly. "I don't know when I stopped appreciating it." Claire doesn't respond right away. When she does, her voice is steady but firm. "Rob, I don't think it's about when you stopped appreciating it. It's about why you need to figure that out, for yourself and for the kids." Rob nods, his expression somber. "I'm trying, Claire. I really am." While Rob works on his self-improvement, Claire begins to notice troubling signs in Abby's behavior. The once cheerful teenager has become withdrawn, her smiles rarer, and her sketches darker. Claire tries to talk to her, but Abby brushes her off with curt responses. One night, Claire finds a sketch Abby left on the dining room table. It depicts a crumbling house, its walls covered in cracks, with a figure standing outside in the rain. The figure is small and faceless, but the sadness in the image is palpable. Claire's heart breaks. She knows she can't ignore this. The next day, she takes Abby out for ice cream, a tradition they've shared since Abby was a little girl. As they sit on a park bench, Claire gently broaches the subject. "Abby, I've noticed you've been really quiet lately, and your drawings, they seem different. Are you okay?" Abby stares at her melting cone, her eyes welling with tears. "I don't know, Mom," she admits. I feel so angry all the time. At Dad, at Melissa, at everything. And I don't know how to make it stop." Claire pulls her daughter into a hug, her own tears spilling over. "It's okay to feel angry, sweetheart," she says. "What happened wasn't fair, and it's okay to be upset, but you don't have to go through this alone. I'm here for you, always." Abby nods against her shoulder, the weight of her emotions finally starting to lift. While Claire focuses on healing her family, the community's reaction to Melissa's downfall takes on a life of its own. Some people applaud Claire for standing up to Melissa, while others criticize her for airing dirty laundry in public. The division creates an awkward tension in social settings, with whispers following Claire wherever she goes. At the grocery store, she runs into an old friend who offers a tight smile. "You've certainly been through a lot," the friend says, her tone dripping with pity. "But don't you think it's time to move on?" Claire smiles politely, though her patience is wearing thin. "I am moving on," she replies. "But healing takes time, and I'm not going to let anyone rush me." The encounter leaves her shaken but resolute. She decides to focus on the people who support her, rather than those who judge her. As Claire navigates her new reality, an unexpected opportunity for romance arises. She meets Daniel, a kind and soft-spoken man, at a local charity event. He's a single dad with a daughter close to Lucas's age, and they bond over their shared experiences of navigating life after divorce. Their first few meetings are casual, filled with light conversation and laughter. But as they spend more time together, Claire begins to feel a spark she hasn't felt in years. It's terrifying and exhilarating all at once. One evening, after a particularly enjoyable dinner with Daniel, Claire confides in Rachel. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," she admits. "What if I get hurt again?" Rachel smiles, her tone gentle but firm. "You can't live your life afraid of what might happen, Claire. You deserve to be happy, and from what I've seen, Daniel makes you happy." Claire takes her friend's words to heart. She decides to give herself permission to explore this new connection, one step at a time. As Claire's relationship with Daniel develops, she's careful to prioritize her children's feelings. She introduces him to Abby and Lucas slowly, making sure they feel comfortable every step of the way. Abby, initially wary, warms up to Daniel after he takes an interest in her art. Lucas, on the other hand, is thrilled to have someone who shares his love of soccer. Seeing her kids smile again fills Claire with a sense of hope she hadn't dared to feel. Just when it seems like life is finally falling into place, Claire receives an unexpected message from Melissa. The tone is surprisingly contrite. "I know I've made mistakes, and I'm sorry for what I've put you through. Can we meet to talk?" Claire is torn. Part of her wants to ignore the message, but another part feels compelled to hear Melissa out. After much deliberation, she agrees to meet at a neutral location, a quiet cafe in town. When Melissa arrives, she looks different. Gone is the polished, confident exterior. She seems nervous, almost fragile. "Claire," she begins, her voice trembling. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to say I'm sorry for everything." Claire listens in silence as Melissa explains herself. She talks about her insecurities, her need for validation, and how those feelings led her to make terrible choices. "I've hurt a lot of people," Melissa admits, tears streaming down her face. "And I don't know if I can ever make it right, but I needed to try." For the first time, Claire sees Melissa not as a villain, but as a deeply flawed and broken person. It doesn't erase the pain she caused, but it gives Claire a sense of closure she hadn't realized she needed. "I appreciate your apology," Claire says finally. "But forgiveness is a process. It's not something I can give you today. Maybe someday, but not now. Melissa nods, accepting Claire's words with grace. The meeting with Melissa becomes the final chapter in Claire's journey of healing. It allows her to fully let go of the anger and resentment that had weighed her down for so long. With a renewed sense of purpose, Claire dives into her new life. She continues to build her relationship with Daniel, supports her kids as they thrive in their own pursuits, and even starts a blog to share her story with others. Her vulnerability and strength inspire readers, many of whom are navigating their own struggles. For the first time in years, Claire feels whole. The pain of the past hasn't disappeared, but it no longer defines her. She's learned to embrace the chaos, to find beauty in the messiness of life. If you've been inspired by Claire's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible tales of resilience and hope. Share your thoughts in the comments. What was your favorite part of Claire's journey? Let's keep the conversation going. Claire's life feels like it's finally settling into a rhythm. Her relationship with Daniel is blossoming, the kids are adjusting well to the changes, and the shadow of Melissa's meddling has started to fade. But just as Claire begins to believe she's reached a stable point, an unexpected revelation threatens to shake her foundation once again. One quiet afternoon, Claire checks the mail and finds an envelope addressed to her in handwriting she doesn't recognize. There's no return address. She opens it cautiously and finds a single sheet of paper with a typed message. The truth always comes out. You deserve to know everything. Attached to the note is a USB drive. Claire's heart pounds as she stares at the drive. Her mind races with questions. Who sent this? What's on it? Is it even safe to look? After a moment of hesitation, she plugs the drive into her laptop, her palms sweating. The drive contains a folder labeled Evidence. Inside are several files, photos, text messages, and even audio recordings. Claire's stomach churns as she realizes what she's looking at, a detailed account of Melissa's manipulations, not just during her relationship with Rob, but dating back years. The files reveal how Melissa targeted Rob, exploiting his insecurities and systematically isolating him from Claire and the kids. But the most shocking revelation comes in the form of a series of emails exchanged between Melissa and another man, a man who is clearly still involved in her life. The tone of the messages suggests that Melissa's relationship with Rob was never about love, but about control and revenge. As Claire scrolls through the emails, a name catches her eye: Brian, Melissa's ex-husband. The correspondence reveals a twisted plan. Brian and Melissa had been working together to manipulate both Claire and Rob. Each for their own reasons. Brian wanted to discredit Melissa publicly, while Melissa sought to hurt Claire for reasons that remain unclear. Claire feels a wave of nausea as the pieces click into place. Brian, the man who had seemed so supportive and understanding, was using her as part of his scheme to take Melissa down. The betrayal feels like a punch to the gut. Claire wastes no time. She calls Brian, her voice trembling with anger. "What the hell is this?" she demands, referring to the evidence. Brian's silence on the other end speaks volumes. Finally, he sighs. "Claire, I can explain." "Don't," she snaps. "Don't you dare try to justify this. You used me. Brian, you manipulated me just like Melissa manipulated Rob." Brian's tone turns defensive. "I wasn't trying to hurt you, Claire. I just wanted to expose Melissa for who she really is. You deserve to know the truth." "And what about my family?" Claire retorts. "Did they deserve to be collateral damage in your little vendetta?" Brian's silence is deafening. Claire ends the call, her hands shaking with rage. She knows she needs to share what she's learned with Rob, but the thought of reliving the pain is almost too much to bear. That evening, Claire invites Rob over, asking him to come after the kids have gone to bed when he arrives. She wastes no time showing him the evidence from the USB drive. As Rob reviews the files, his face pales. "I can't believe this," he says, his voice barely above a whisper. "Melissa and Brian, they planned this together?" Claire nods, her expression grim. "It was never about love, Rob. She used you just like Brian used me. Rob buries his face in his hands, the weight of the revelation crushing him. I don't even know who I am anymore, he admits. I've made so many mistakes. Claire places a hand on his shoulder, her voice steady. We all make mistakes, Rob. What matters is what we do next. The next day, Claire and Rob meet with their lawyers to discuss the new evidence. Together, they decide to file a joint lawsuit against Melissa for defamation and emotional distress. It's a bold move, but one that feels necessary to reclaim their narrative and protect their children. The lawsuit garners significant attention, drawing the eyes of both the community and the media. Melissa, cornered and exposed, scrambles to defend herself, but the mountain of evidence against her is insurmountable. For Claire, the lawsuit isn't just about justice, it's about closure. She's determined to show Abby and Lucas that standing up for yourself, even in the face of overwhelming odds, is always worth it. The day of the trial arrives, and the courtroom is packed. Claire sits beside Rob, their united front a stark contrast to the fractured state of their relationship. Just months earlier, Melissa enters, her confident demeanor faltering under the weight of the scrutiny. As the trial unfolds, the evidence speaks for itself. Text messages, emails, and testimony paint a clear picture of Melissa's manipulations. Brian is called to the stand, where he reluctantly admits to his role in the scheme. His testimony further solidifies the case against Melissa. When it's Claire's turn to speak, she addresses the court with a calm determination. This isn't just about what Melissa did to me and my family, she says. It's about holding people accountable for their actions and showing others that they don't have to suffer in silence. Her words resonate with the jury, and when the verdict is delivered, ruling in favor of Claire and Rob, the courtroom erupts in applause. With the trial behind her, Claire feels a sense of peace she hasn't known in years. The lawsuit not only brought justice, but also helped her rebuild bridges with Rob and the community. While she and Rob will never be the same, they've found a way to co-parent with respect and understanding. Claire's relationship with Daniel continues to grow, and she finds herself opening up to the possibility of love again. Abby and Lucas thrive in the newfound stability, their smiles a constant reminder of why Claire fought so hard. As Claire sits on her porch one evening, watching the sunset, she reflects on everything she's been through. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the battles. It all feels like a distant memory now. She knows the scars will never fully fade, but she's learned to see them as symbols of her strength. Life isn't perfect, but it's hers, and for Claire, that's enough. If Claire's journey inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more stories of resilience and triumph. Let us know in the comments, what would you have done in Claire's shoes? We can't wait to hear your thoughts. The courtroom victory brings a sense of justice and closure for Claire and Rob, but the battle has left scars that still feel fresh. With the trial behind them, life slowly begins to stabilize, yet there's an undercurrent of tension, a feeling that the final chapter of this saga has yet to be written. Claire throws herself into rebuilding her life. Abby and Lucas seem lighter, more at ease without the looming shadow of Melissa's manipulations. Abby's artwork becomes more vibrant, her sketches brimming with life and optimism. Lucas, always the energetic one, dives headfirst into soccer, his laughter filling the house. But Claire notices the subtle ways the ordeal has changed them. Abby has grown more guarded, her once carefree nature tempered by a newfound wariness. Lucas, though cheerful, clings to Claire in moments of quiet, as if afraid she might disappear too. Claire knows that healing takes time, but she's determined to help her children reclaim their joy. Rob, too, is navigating the aftermath. The trial forced him to confront uncomfortable truths about himself, and he's committed to becoming a better father. He begins attending parenting workshops, seeking advice on how to rebuild trust with Abby and Lucas. One afternoon, he visits Claire's house, carrying a box of cupcakes from the kids' favorite bakery. "I thought we could have a family dinner," he says, his voice tentative. Claire hesitates, but the hopeful look in Lucas's eyes convinces her. "Okay," she agrees. "But just dinner." The evening is awkward at first, the air heavy with unspoken words. But as they sit around the table, sharing stories and laughter, the tension begins to thaw. For a moment, it feels like old times, before the lies, the betrayal, and the heartbreak. When the kids go to bed, Rob lingers in the kitchen. "Thank you," he says, his voice filled with sincerity, "for giving me a chance to be here." Claire nods, her emotions a mix of gratitude and caution. "This is about the kids, Rob. Let's keep it that way." Just as life seems to be settling, an unexpected figure reappears. Melissa. One crisp autumn morning, Claire finds her standing on the front porch, looking disheveled and desperate. "What are you doing here?" Claire asks, her voice sharp. "I need to talk to you," Melissa pleads. "Please, just hear me out." Against her better judgment, Claire steps aside, allowing Melissa into the house. They sit in the living room, the tension palpable. Melissa's eyes are red-rimmed, her usual confidence replaced by vulnerability. "I've lost everything," she begins. "My reputation, my career, even Brian. He turned on me after the trial." Claire crosses her arms, unmoved. "And you think I'm supposed to feel sorry for you?" Melissa shakes her head. "No, I know I've hurt you. I've hurt a lot of people, but I'm trying to make amends." Claire's skepticism is evident, but she listens as Melissa recounts her downward spiral. "I don't expect forgiveness," Melissa says. "I just wanted you to know that I'm leaving town for good. I need to start over." Claire exhales, her emotions a whirlwind of relief, anger, and pity. "I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, Melissa, but don't expect me to forget what you've done." Melissa nods, her expression somber. "I understand, thank you for letting me say my piece." As Melissa leaves, Claire feels an unexpected sense of closure. The chapter of Melissa's interference in her life is finally coming to an end. Just when Claire begins to feel a sense of peace, an unexpected twist shakes her world once again. One evening, as she's sorting through paperwork, she finds an old folder tucked away in a drawer. Inside are documents related to Rob's finances, documents that reveal a hidden account he never disclosed during their marriage or the trial. Claire's mind races as she pieces together the implications. The account contains a significant amount of money, raising questions about its origin and purpose. Did Rob hide this from her intentionally, or was it something he forgot in the chaos of their separation? Claire confronts Rob the next day, her tone accusatory. "What is this?" she demands, slamming the folder onto the table. Rob's eyes widen as he examines the documents. I don't know," he stammers. "I mean, I set up that account years ago for an investment I forgot it even existed." Claire's anger flares. "Forgot Rob, this isn't pocket change. This is enough to change everything. How could you not tell me?" Rob looks genuinely confused, but Claire's trust in him has been shaken once again. Claire's discovery of the account forces her to reevaluate everything. She consults her lawyer, who advises her to investigate further. The findings reveal that the account was initially set up for legitimate purposes, but was later used to cover expenses during Rob's affair with Melissa. When Claire confronts Rob again, his reaction is one of deep remorse. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he says. "I was ashamed I didn't know how to tell you." Claire's response is cold, but resolute. "You've been saying that a lot, Rob, but your shame doesn't erase the damage you've done." The discovery leads to a new round of legal proceedings, further straining their already fragile dynamic. For Claire, the process is exhausting, but she knows it's necessary to protect herself and her children. The tension reaches its peak during a final mediation session between Claire and Rob. The mediator tries to maintain order, but the emotions in the room are raw and unfiltered. "I want to do right by you and the kids," Rob says, his voice cracking. "I know I've messed up, but I'm trying to make amends." Claire's response is measured, but firm. "Trying isn't enough, Rob. You need to take responsibility for everything." The session ends with a new agreement in place, one that ensures financial stability for Claire and the kids. It's not a victory, but it's a step toward closure. With the legal battle behind her, Claire focuses on rebuilding her life once more. She pours her energy into her blog, sharing her journey and connecting with others who've faced similar challenges. Her words inspire countless readers, many of whom credit her for giving them the courage to stand up for themselves. Daniel remains a steady presence in her life, offering support without trying to overshadow her independence. Their relationship deepens, built on mutual respect and understanding. Abby and Lucas, too, continue to thrive. Abby's art wins her a scholarship to a prestigious program, while Lucas's soccer team advances to the state championships. Watching her children chase their dreams fills Claire with a sense of pride and fulfillment. One evening, as Claire sits on the porch with Daniel, she reflects on how far she's come. The journey has been anything but easy, marked by betrayal, heartbreak, and loss. But through it all, she's found strength she didn't know she had. "I used to think my life was falling apart," she says, her voice soft. "But now I see it was falling into place." Daniel takes her hand, his smile warm. "You've built something beautiful, Claire, and it's just the beginning." As the sun sets, casting the world in hues of gold and amber, Claire feels a profound sense of peace. Her story isn't over, but for the first time in a long time, she's excited to see what the next chapter holds. If you've been inspired by Claire's journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more stories of resilience and triumph. And as always, share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your take on Claire's incredible story. The storm has passed, leaving Claire with a life that's not perfect, but undeniably her own. The scars of betrayal and heartbreak remain, but they no longer define her. Instead, they serve as a testament to her resilience, a reminder of the strength she discovered within herself. In the months following the mediation, Rob works tirelessly to rebuild his relationship with Abby and Lucas. He attends every soccer game and art show, his presence no longer an obligation but a genuine desire to be part of their lives. For Abby, forgiveness comes slowly. She's still wary of her father, but as she sees his consistent efforts, her defenses begin to soften. During one of her art exhibitions, Rob surprises her by purchasing her favorite piece, a vibrant painting of a phoenix rising from the ashes. "It reminds me of you," he says, his voice full of pride. Strong, resilient, and beautiful. Abby's eyes well up with tears, and for the first time in years, she hugs him without hesitation. Lucas, ever the optimist, forgives Rob more easily. He drags his father onto the soccer field during practice, insisting they practice penalty kicks together. Watching Lucas laugh and cheer fills Rob with a sense of purpose he thought he'd lost. Though Claire keeps her distance, she recognizes Rob's growth. They're not friends, but they've found a way to co-parent with mutual respect. It's enough. True to her word, Melissa leaves town shortly after her confrontation with Claire. Rumors swirl about her new life. Some say she's moved abroad, others claim she's started over in a small town where no one knows her name. For Claire, the details don't matter. What matters is that Melissa is gone, and with her, the chaos she brought. Occasionally, Claire wonders if Melissa truly learned from her mistakes, but then she reminds herself that it's not her responsibility to dwell on someone else's journey. Claire has her own life to live. Daniel has become a cornerstone of Claire's new life. He's patient, kind, and unwavering in his support, but he never oversteps, allowing Claire to set the pace of their relationship. It's a slow burn, one built on trust and mutual respect. One evening, Daniel surprises Claire with a picnic in the park. The setting sun casts a golden glow over the scene, and as they sit on the blanket, Daniel takes her hand. "Claire, I know you've been through so much, but I want you to know that I'm here for the long haul, no matter what." Claire's heart swells. She's not sure she's ready for marriage again, but she knows one thing for certain. Daniel is someone she wants by her side. "Thank you," she says softly, "for everything." Their relationship doesn't need grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It's steady, comforting, and exactly what Claire needs. Abby's art continues to flourish. Her acceptance into a prestigious summer program becomes a turning point, giving her the confidence to dream even bigger. Watching her daughter present her portfolio to a room of renowned artists, Claire feels a surge of pride. Abby has found her voice, and it's as bold and beautiful as the colors she paints with. Lucas's soccer team makes it to the state championships, and he scores the winning goal in the final game. The joy on his face as his teammates lift him onto their shoulders is a moment Claire will never forget. Lucas's boundless energy and optimism remind Claire that even in the darkest times, there's always light. Claire's blog has grown into a thriving online community. Her candid posts about overcoming betrayal and rebuilding her life resonate with readers from all walks of life. She's invited to speak at a women's empowerment conference, where her story inspires hundreds of attendees. Standing on the stage, looking out at the sea of faces, Claire feels a sense of purpose. She never imagined her pain has become her power, and she's using it to uplift others. After the conference, a young woman approaches her with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she says. "Your story gave me the courage to leave a toxic relationship. You saved me." Claire hugs her, overwhelmed by the realization that her journey has made a difference. It's a moment of profound healing, one that reminds her why she fought so hard to reclaim her life. One evening, Claire finds herself sitting on the back porch, a cup of tea in hand. The kids are asleep, the house is quiet, and the stars shine brightly overhead. It's a moment of peace, one she never thought she'd have again. As she reflects on the past year, Claire feels a mix of emotions: grief for what she lost, gratitude for what she gained, and hope for what's to come. Life hasn't been easy, but it's hers, and she's proud of how far she's come. "Here's to new beginnings," she whispers, raising her cup to the night sky. The story ends with a family picnic in the park. Claire, Abby, Lucas, and Daniel laugh and play, the sound of their joy filling the air. It's a simple moment, but it's perfect in its simplicity, a snapshot of a life rebuilt with love, resilience, and hope. As the sun sets, casting the world in a warm golden hue, Claire feels an overwhelming sense of peace. She's learned that life is messy, unpredictable, and sometimes heartbreaking, but it's also beautiful, full of second chances and unexpected blessings. And for Claire, that's more than enough. If you've enjoyed Claire's journey as much as we've loved sharing it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories of resilience and hope. Let us know in the comments what part of Claire's story resonated with you the most. We can't wait to hear your thoughts. Stay tuned for more stories that inspire, uplift, and remind us all of the strength we carry within.